This is the Pastor Wife Life, a podcast for pastors' wives. Our hope is to bring encouragement and inspiration to your pastor wife life. Life in the ministry is one of the most fulfilling callings there is, but it's also one of the most challenging. We believe that God has uniquely gifted you to fulfill this calling. Our lives will probably not look the same. Our families and churches may be very different, but I think we can all agree that God is good and He is faithful to gently lead us on this journey, providing everything we need to live the pastor wife life. Hey, Carrie, I am so excited to have you back on the podcast with me.
Well, thank you, Jackie. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, I meant to look up your episode number before I jumped on here. I completely forgot because I was worried about filling up my water bottle. But I will look that up so people can listen to the first time you were on the podcast because you are a returning guest. So tell us a little bit about you and your family in the ministry, and then fill us in on anything new from the last time that we heard from you.
Well, let's see, I'm Carrie Turansky, and my husband's name is Scott, and he is the teaching pastor at Graceway Bible Church in Hamilton, New Jersey. And we've been married for 45 years, and we have 5 adult children. Some are married, and we have 11 grandchildren. So
Awesome.
keeps us very busy with family. It's very important to us. And I also write novels, women's inspirational fiction, and lead up women's ministry and enjoy discipling younger women and helping Scott with hostessing and, hospitality things at the church. And that's kind of who I am.
You are a busy, busy lady.
Yes, I am.
We're going to talk about marriage. We might need to be talking about time management because it sounds like you've got that down.
Well, I do enjoy being busy, and I'm grateful. I mean, it's never boring in our house, so I'm glad for that.
That is a good thing. Yes. So is anything different from the last time we talked? You probably have, maybe you've had grandkids since then. If you're up to 11,
Yeah, yeah, we do. We have some new grandkids that have been added to our family, so that's a real blessing. Although they're all spread out around the country, and so nobody lives locally. So we have to travel, or they have to travel to see us, but we're able to do that pretty often. So that's good. And I've had another book come out since then, and I'm writing another book. So those are kind of the newer things that have been happening.
I'm excited. We're going to talk about your book before we go. We're going to jump into marriage first. I
Okay.
definitely, because I am a reader, and so I definitely want to talk about the books. But anyway, okay, so we're going to talk about marriage. I love that you added this topic to when you said yes, I'd come back on the podcast, and you handed over a beautiful list of questions that we can talk about marriage. And 45 years you've been married, so there is definitely going to be a lot of wisdom coming out of this. So before we get into questions that you asked me, tell us again, which you probably told us on the first episode, but how did you become the pastor's wife?
I became the pastor's wife. Let's see, we met the year after I graduated from college, and was very disappointed because I'd wanted to go on a mission trip, and I got my paperwork turned in too late, and so I had to come home for the summer and live at home, and I needed a job. And so at my church, they were going to have a kids' day camp for the summer, and my husband was running that, and he needed somebody to work with him, and so I applied at first, and he told me no, he didn't need anybody, and I was disappointed because I needed a job. But then finally that person, it turned out they couldn't help him, and so he interviewed me and hired me to work with him. So we worked together
Oh,
for the summer, and that's how we got to know each other. But then I did go away the next summer for a mission trip. I finally got my paperwork in on time, and we wrote a lot of letters that summer. When we came back, we got engaged and were married a year later. And so I've been the pastor's wife for 45 years. We went right into ministry. He was in seminary when we married, and he just had one more year. And then we were off to our first church in Hawaii way back in
that's
1980.
right. You were in Hawaii. I remember that now.
Yep. For 8 years, we were in Hawaii, and our 3 oldest kids were born there. And then we came to New Jersey to a young church that was just being planted here. And so we've been in New Jersey from Hawaii ever since. So we're in the East.
That is like two of the most opposite places.
It was a real culture shock to come here.
Oh, that's great though. So New Jersey, I mean, is New Jersey a hard, I'm from the South, and so churches are the norm. Jesus is normal. It's the Bible Belt. So is it a different church culture there in New Jersey?
It is. It's a very different culture. We're right by Princeton University, so there's a lot of intellectual, things, and we're an hour from New York City and 45 minutes from Philadelphia. We're right in the middle between that. So it's people are very oriented toward work and education, and there's a lot of very strong Catholic population in the area, very
Mm-hmm.
traditional Catholic population. So a lot of people that are in our church have, kind of wanted more and came out of that into a Bible teaching evangelical church. So, but it is
Mm,
a little bit harder area to reach people, but that's where the Lord has us. So that's where we are.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I that is one of the things I noticed about New Jersey was the intellect there.
Yes.
Because when we were searching for a church back before we came where we are now, which was not, that we've been here 12 years now, there was a church in New Jersey, and their list of requirements was steep as far as education. We're like, that's not us.
Yeah. My husband has 2 masters and a doctorate. So it's like, that's the kind of thing
I
that
think it's
we're looking
appropriate. He
for.
can fit in there.
Yeah.
he's
He can
he's also an author too.
He is, yeah. He writes parenting books. So he has several parenting books out, and he speaks around the country. And in the last few years, it's kind of shifted since COVID more to doing training of parenting coaches on the
Mm,
phone. And so he's developed that whole ministry, and he does a lot of coaching with families too. So he still goes around and speaks, but not as much, which I like because he could be home more. So that's
mm.
great.
Um, that's such a, I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a time that parenting, biblically parenting the way God would have us parent is more important than it is right now. I mean,
Mm.
my kids, like yours, my kids are all grown, and I'm so thankful. Like, oh, my grandkids, seeing the world my grandkids are growing up in is so different, but it is so wonderful to see my kids living out the values that
Mm.
we raised them with.
Yes,
Some of
that's
the things, obviously they're not exact carbon copies of us, but the where it really matters, they're raising their kids the same way. And that that really is a good thing for my mama heart. But yes, parenting. So thank you, Pastor Scott, for for carrying that on, because that's vital. But let's talk about marriage, not parenting today.
okay.
So you've been married 45 years, and I'm sure it's been all daisies, unicorns, rainbows, all the things, right? No
Well,
challenges.
we have had challenges, but I am blessed because my husband, he's a good person, a godly man. And so that, of course, makes it so much easier. I just count our marriage as, like one of the very biggest blessings in my life. So, but I mean, when you have 5 kids and you're in ministry, you're definitely going to have different kinds of challenges that you face. So, we've gone through some of those things, and mostly I would say they've drawn us closer together. So that's the choice that you have. You can either let those kind of things pull you apart, and be tough on your marriage, or, you can purpose to work together through the problems and be attacking the problems and not each other. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And that's kind of helped us get through some of those.
Yeah, I mean, marriage is challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Add in parenting,
Mm-hmm.
challenging. Add in ministry, very
Yeah.
challenging. There's a lot of factors going on there.
Yeah.
And your marriage is so public in a way.
Mm.
Just people are watching you, and they're obviously they're seeing what the Sunday morning you, or when if you have them over to your home, stuff like that. But I mean, it's definitely, they're not into every single personal moment, because you're probably not sharing tons and tons of your personal life, but it's still very public. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
out somewhere out in the community, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's
Yeah. And part of your ministry is your example and the way
Mhm.
you I'm thinking of, especially for wives, how you treat your husband and, what you would say about him to anybody. I always try to be really careful about that, that I
Yes.
never would criticize my husband in public. And, if I have something I'm going through, there's only a person or two that I would really share it with. And that was somebody that I know would keep it in confidence, or a professional counselor. That's about who I would talk to.
Right.
'Cause you don't want to, it to go to anybody else and damage anything. So you have to be very careful about that. So um,
Do you guys drive to church together?
not usually, because he usually goes by like 7:15 in the morning, and I
Hmm.
I usually go about 7:45, so I can be there at 8 o'clock for we have a prayer meeting before church. But he's
Hmm.
goes even earlier because he wants to be sure that everything is.
Right.
We've only been in this church a year and a half now where we are. All our other churches before that were church planting situations. This is an
Hmm.
older established church. It's a lot larger, so that's a little bit of a ministry shift for us. So we're still shifting into, learning how everything works and who's related to who. That's the funniest thing. Year and a half later, oh, that's your daughter. Oh, I didn't know that, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of families and interrelated and married and things there too. So that's kind
Oh,
of
that's interesting because when I think of that, of course, in the South, that always seems to be the way it is, but I don't think of that anywhere else. Like any other region of the country it doesn't seem like it should be like that, but
yeah.
you're telling me it is. So, yeah, that's I just found out this year we've been here 12 years that this lady was this guy, they were sister and brother. I just found this out after 12 years and I would love to have had a video of my own face because I was shook that I thought I'd figured everything out by now, but I had not. But yeah, anyway, yeah, we don't ride to church together either. We're only 2 miles from the church, but he goes very early, which the whole reason I was even thinking that was thinking about sometimes if you're not you, but if I am aggravated with my husband, we have to, but we don't ride to church together. We don't see each other on Sunday morning. And so there's really no way to get aggravated with him. So that's works for me. I don't think that's a good piece of marriage advice, though. Don't ride to church with your husband. Don't see him on Sunday morning. Probably not good. That's not where we're trying to go with this. But anyway, it has worked for me. So like one of the things that couples when they come in our office is finances are a huge deal.
Yeah.
So and again I feel like with pastoral couples a lot of times it's a big deal because pastoral ministry is not exactly known for, we're not we're not millionaires here. I mean, I'm not. I don't know about y'all, but we're not. And so finances can be tricky and with any situation. So how do you guys handle finances in the ministry? And I mean in the marriage, not the ministry. I don't want to know about that right now.
I'm really blessed that my husband was raised in a family that had really great financial principles. And so he brought that into our marriage. A lot of the same kind of things like you would see in Financial Peace University, where
Mm,
you budget and you have a savings plan so that you have extra money in case for emergencies, and giving as well as saving and all those kind of things. So he was really good at it, whereas my family was not as good at it. So I had a little bit to learn on that. But we're both very thrifty, and we love to hunt for bargains and things that are on sale. And last year we did a little bit of a home remodel where we opened up our living room, dining room, kitchen to be all in one room. And so that meant we could get some different furniture and things. But I was determined, I was going on Marketplace and I was going to find bargains and things. So I would say at least half of the things that we found were things that we got from Marketplace that I repainted or, refurbished or whatever. So that's kind of fun. I enjoy being thrifty. And so we look for bargains, and, we do use credit cards, but we pay them off every month. We don't go into debt for anything except for like our house, that kind of thing. As far as cars, we save up and we buy used, and we keep driving it until until it's not good to drive it anymore. So that's kind of been our principle, and that worked for us. I mean, I know it's harder and harder as the younger couples are coming, but when we were, first married and had children and things, it was a struggle to live on that one income.
right.
We wanted to homeschool our kids because our oldest son had some learning disabilities, and it was just tough for him to be in school. And I didn't want to homeschool. But when he really needed that, we decided we would try it. And it turned out to be a good thing for our family because the kids, both my boys had learning differences. And then when my daughter was very advanced and she could go ahead at her own speed. And then when we adopted two girls, they both had different learning disabilities than my sons had. So we had four that had learning challenges. So homeschooling was
Wow.
important for our family. So that meant that I need to be able to be at home and we needed to figure out how to live on one income. So we learned to be very thrifty, and that's been real helpful, as we've, progressed and been able to, um, get the kids through Christian high school when we're done homeschooling and into college, that kind of thing. So we're blessed that the Lord gave us those ideas. And my father-in-law was famous for always saying, do your homework. If you're going to buy anything, you got to do your homework and go find out the best prices and you turn off the lights and all those kind of things. So we don't say that as much, but we still try to practice those kinds of good principles for finances. And that reduces a lot of that stress and trouble in your marriage. If there's a big expense, something we want to buy, we definitely talk it over. Otherwise, we have, freedom to spend, things that we need around the house or whatever. But we talk about more expensive things.
Yeah, we use a budget. We use an app called YNAB. You need a budget. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Oh,
this,
no, huh?
but I highly recommend it. It
Okay.
is fantastic. I don't know how to explain it in just a couple sentences. There's a learning curve to it, but
Okay.
it helped us get debt free. Um, Last year we got debt free. It helped us to, I don't, it's just amazing. So I don't need to be the spokesperson for it. Look it up if somebody's interested in learning how to budget well, it's not learning how to budget. It does teach you, but it gives you the tool to budget well. And so it accounts for things like long-term things like your car tags come every year. Well, if you haven't saved for that, then oh, surprise. But this app will let you set a goal. So it tell you say, okay, my tags are going to cost $180 in September. So it says, okay, every month you need to save this much money. It gives you a little place and it reminds you because it's yellow if you haven't put your money in for that month. And then it'll turn green when you funded it.
Well, that's
Anyway,
great.
I
What's
could
the
do a
name?
whole thing on it if I really knew what I was talking about, but you need a budget.
You need a budget. Okay, great.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
amazing.
Oh,
So
great.
in there, Dwayne and I have our allowance. Like we have a little category. Each of us have our allowance, and that's supposed to be. I'm saying because I'm not perfect at it, but that's like if I want something that's not on the budget for me, that's where it comes out of.
Okay.
Supposed
That's
to be.
good. That's
That's
great.
the ideal. So anyway, it's been a huge help. So there, I'll put that in the show notes so people can find that. But so, speaking of finances, dates. Dating is so important when you're married. And I think it's super important for pastoral couples to have set aside time for dates. So, are you guys extravagant daters or are you frugal dater? I'm guessing you're probably on the more frugal side.
Yeah, we're
Um,
on the pretty frugal side, although we do take some trips where we go away overnight sometimes. But when we're just looking for dates around town, it's usually taking a walk together or going to dinner or something. So, going on a picnic in the summer. So we're pretty casual about that. But it is important to have time together because that's something. So we also like to do projects together. So sometimes it's working on something together. If it's um, building something or working in the yard together, those kind of things. Maybe that's not exactly a date, but it's giving you time together. So I kind of
I
enjoy it.
think it's great. Yeah, spending time together. What do
Yeah.
you guys do like when you're walking? What are you talking about? Do you have more subjects than I do, really, is what I want to know? Because my subjects are ministry and grandkids. That's about it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It seems like whatever comes up, it's not like I don't go out with an agenda. It's just like, what's happening lately with family and people and, how we're doing in our different projects that we're working on, that kind of thing. So I always
That's
enjoy
good.
that. We live right
I,
across the street from a park that has a small lake that's we clocked it to go around it is 1.1 miles. So that's just a really good run the lake once. And when the weather's not
oh,
terrible, we can get out and go for a walk. We really enjoy that.
oh, what a blessing. That's so nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That is something we do not have here where I live in our town. We don't have a good park. if we go walk, we walk around the schools. The elementary, middle, and high school are kind of all right next to each other, and you can walk.
Yeah.
So you can, it's not very exciting, but um it's a good long walk. However, in the last year I found out we have natural burial grounds
Oh,
here. It takes 10 minutes from my house to get to starting the hiking place where you can start hiking. So you can hike up this mountain, and there are all kinds of trails up there. But yeah, it's a natural burial ground. Who knew?
oh, oh.
But anyway, it's
What
interesting. And
what
that's the
state are
nicest
you
thing we
in?
have. Tennessee.
Tennessee. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's a beautiful place. Just interesting. I'm like, I like the natural burial idea. This is good. I think it's a beautiful thing. So whatever. But anyway, you can walk around up there. You're not, I mean, you're not just looking at graves. It's all in the woods. It's beautiful. So we can do that sometimes, but not now. It's too cold. Too
Yeah,
cold.
cold here too.
Mm. So we did talk about parenting a little bit. And what are some of you've got 5 kids. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we're
What are
blessed.
some of your best parenting tips? I mean, you live with a parenting expert, so
I do. So I've learned so much from Scott, and he had a great family that he was raised in, and he took a lot of principles from that. And then he likes to just look in the Bible and take the principles there. That's what he's really good at, applying them practically to family life. So he's good. But I think one thing I've really learned is that moms and dads do parenting differently, and that's okay. And if you are critical of your husband in the way he's caring for the kids, he will probably just back off, and then you'll have to do it all yourself. So it's good to
mm,
allow your husband the freedom to parent differently than you. And if you disagree, of course, you want to talk to him in private, but you got to give him a lot of freedom, I think, to do it a little differently. I'm more cautious, like, don't throw the kid up in the air, but he would love to, be rough with them and wrestle. And I'm just like, oh, be careful. But I
yes,
try to like
why?
tone that down so that he can enjoy being with the kids and, praising him and thanking him for taking the time with them. So really try to encourage, the parenting role for my husband. And he is a great dad. He spends a lot of time and loves our grandkids. It's so fun having the grandkids now and being able to do fun things with them. So we really enjoy that.
It is so much fun. How do you, because a lot of pastors' wives are in the situation that you're in, that I'm in. We have grandkids that don't live near us. So,
Mm.
what are some of the things you do that help keep that connection?
Well, the older ones that are teens, I try to connect online with them on social media if they're on like Instagram or something. So I connect there with them, and I'm always commenting on whatever photos they post or something just to let them know. And then I do like to send cards and letters, and I have done some FaceTime, but not, I want to do that more this year because I feel like some of the ones that live farther away, it's just really hard to stay connected, especially as they get, into
Mm.
teenage and early teenage, they're off doing their own thing. It was easier, I think, when they were little. It was more, let's cook pancakes with grandma. We're going to make a fairy garden or something like that. So I think
Right.
a little bit more creative and find ways to connect with the teens. And my husband has taken our oldest 3 grandsons. He took the oldest on a ministry trip to Dubai before
Oh,
COVID. And
wow.
then last year, I mean, 23, he took the 2 next oldest to Egypt with him on a trip. So that really gave him time with them. So, doing trips with them when you can is great. And then we have done some family reunion vacation type things where we try to get together. But as the family's gotten bigger and bigger, now there's like 22 of us if we're trying to get everybody together with my mother-in-law and everything. And we tried once in a house and it was just pretty tight and not as comfortable as we wanted. So we need to find a new place and try again with that. But that was fun too, to have a family reunion kind of thing. But we try to visit, go there and spend time with them when we can and have them here and do projects together. That's kind of fun.
It's so fun. We just got to see our Florida grandkids, and they're like, "We're coming this summer." They didn't get to come this last summer. Did not work out with
Um,
our schedules and their schedules, and so they just want to come up here to Tennessee and
oh,
spend some time with us. they're ready to come. I'm like, well, you want to wait till it gets warmer, trust me. But yes,
Yeah.
we will make this work. We're gonna figure out how to make it work this summer. We're gonna clear schedules however we can because those kids were so disappointed to not be able to come to Pops and Gigi's house. So we're
Yeah.
gonna make it work. But it's tricky, it's difficult. So back to marriage things. Whoa, sorry, I'm knocking the table over. Um, we talked about me being possibly every once in a while huffy with my husband on the way to church, but that really hasn't happened in so long. But there are, I mean, that doesn't mean it's not happening other times. I mean, sometimes our husbands are not perfect. Um, even when we are, they're not. No, just kidding. I'm definitely not in that category. But what do you do? How do you respond? What do you do when you're angry with your husband?
And well, it seems like it's gotten less as we've gotten older. We're more used
Hmm.
to that kind of
I
thing.
agree.
I think um, one thing I've learned is that anger is really a flag, and it's good to help you identify the problem, but it's not the best way for you to solve the problem, being angry with each other. So
Oh, that was good. It's not the best way to or it's the best way to identify. What did you say? That was really good.
anger is a flag. It's a good way to identify problems, but it's not the best way to solve the problem.
Oh,
So
it's
when
good.
you're getting upset about something and you're feeling angry, it's good to, if you can, help yourself learn to step back and say, why am I upset about this? What is it that's going on here, and what is the best way to handle it so that you're not just reacting all the time, but you're really responding in a way that's healthy. So, that's like the verse, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. So if you can slow yourself down a lot of times, that helps. If you can take a break and, pray about it. You don't have to like address everything that happens right in the moment. So a lot of times I find if I'm bothered or upset about something, it's good to wait, and then pray about it, think about it. And if I do, feel like it's something that I need to talk to him about, then I try to wait for the right time, pray about that. And what's the right time to do it? Let's see, what else was I thinking about that? Well, one thing is like sometimes we can just be irritated about things, like simple things around the house that they leave that are messy or whatever. And it used
Mhm.
to bother me a lot when I was younger. Like one thing my husband does is when he takes a shower and shaves and everything in the morning, he leaves water all over the counter in the bathroom. And it used to bother me so much. I'm thinking, why can't he clean this up? It's just and he even teaches in one of his parenting classes, one of the things you teach kids is to look around the bathroom and ask, is this bathroom ready for the next person? I'm thinking, why don't you do that? But then I thought, well, how long does it take me to clean this up? 3 seconds. It takes me 3 seconds to take a piece of, a towel or whatever and wipe that up. And I love my husband. There's so many good things about him, so many wonderful things he's done for me. If I can't wipe this 3 second water up, what's wrong with me? So it's really my problem. So now I kind of chuckle about it and I just clean it up and I think, thank you, Lord, for all the good things that he does and forget about the water. It's just not that big a deal. Get the right perspective. So that kind of helps me.
That is good because I mean, I'm sure that if you experience that, my husband does the same thing, that same exact specific thing. I bet there's a lot more that do that, but he
Oh,
has kind of moved himself into the other bathroom because he gets up super early. And in our bathroom, they like it is right. Like our bedroom is small, bathroom is small, and it's too close. So any noise, it would wake me up. So he finally started going to the other bathroom. So I don't even know what's going on in there.
well, that was thoughtful of him. He was trying to let you rest in a little longer.
Yes, except now that I've gotten older, I'm waking up too, so I'm up. But
Yeah.
anyway, so he's
Yeah.
in the other bathroom, so I don't have to deal with that. But everyone, like if somebody comes in, stays with us, he'll come back into our bathroom, and I'm like, "There's the water." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's a man thing. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
now you've brought the Holy Spirit conviction in with what you just said. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Oh,
what you've been married a long time. I've been married 34 years as well. And I mean, you've been married longer, but I've been married 34 years. So we've been married a while. And one of your questions is such a good one because how do you keep romance in your relationship when you don't even, so you don't feel like roommates? Like it's easy to just get into a groove and just be doing life and ministry and parenting. And yeah, so suddenly you realize the romance is not there.
Yeah, I think it's something you have to purpose to work at and keep in your marriage. One thing we always do is after dinner, it's just the two of us now. So he always helps me wash the dishes and I kind of put food away and everything. And when we're done, we always kiss. So I always kiss after we're done cleaning up in the kitchen and he's off to do whatever he's doing in the evening. And so that's kind of a fun thing. And then well, I think one thing we did like recently, we were able to take a trip and we decided for our anniversary, let's go back to the town where we first met. Let's see the place where we worked in the church. Let's look at our old house. Let's go to the places we used to go and kind of remember what it was like
Oh,
when we
how fun.
first were together. So that was flying clear over to Oregon, is because that's where we first met. But it was a wonderful trip, and it just did bring up such wonderful memories. And so kind of if you can think about doing some of the things you did when you were younger and in love, and if you can think of the positive things that you appreciate about your spouse and write those down, and you can, um, just purpose to be loving, because you're the only wife that your husband has. So you want to be, the wife for him that shows love and is loving and keeps that kind of that romantic part in your relationships. So
It's good. What's your husband's love language?
I'm not sure. I would say, I don't know. I need to go read the book again and figure it out. I don't even know what mine is, although I love it when he helps me with things. So that's
Acts
probably,
of service.
yeah,
Yes.
that's probably it. But I was thinking about um the verses in Proverbs 31 where it says the wife, she does good for him every day of his life. I'm thinking, oh, did I do good for him yet today? So I was doing something the other day. I was busy working on a project and he came up and he said, could you sew my pocket of my pants? Because when I put the clicker for changing the slide, it had to go way down deep. And I need the pocket sewn up shorter so that I don't have to reach so far down and be digging down my pants pocket for the clicker. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do good for my husband here. So I stopped
Oh,
what I'm doing, like even like when he comes into the room, stop what you're doing and look him in the eyes and pay attention, just even small things like that, or touching them on the back, or there's
mhm.
ways you can do it that are small ways, but they still convey a kindness and a love and appreciation for the person.
Yes. So I started, well, not started, I have renewed my interest in keeping a journal. And one of the reasons that I always have a hard time keeping a journal is like, what do I write? Because my life is really not that exciting. And so I came up with some questions to ask myself. I don't have to answer them every day, but just some questions to I copy and paste it into the app and I go through the questions. And one of those questions is, did I love my husband? How did I love my husband well? I did
Mhm.
write, did I love my husband well today? And then I said, no, 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 that's too easy. I need to say how,
Yeah.
so that if there was no way, I have to confront that in myself. So,
Wow.
um, so I've only, obviously it's only, we're recording this on the 4th day of January, so it's only been 3 days that I've had to do that. And so I'm pretty focused on it right now. It's like, okay, wait, have I done something yet? Because I want to write in my journal that I did something. I did
That's
something, at least one
good.
thing. So
Yeah.
that, and for my daughter that lives at home, I wrote it down for her too. But it's been, it's already has been like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to be making sure that I don't just, I'm shrugging my shoulders for anybody that's just listening. I just can go on about my day and not be thinking about anybody but myself. So that's been good for me to
That's
know
great.
that
That's a
I'm going to
good
ask myself.
suggestion. Yeah, that's very good.
And it's a private, like it's a locked journal online, or not online, but on my computer. So I know that I can fully be honest with myself and I'm making myself be honest so that I can go back and say, yeah, all right, you need to do something about this.
Yeah. Good
So what
reminder.
is some of the best marriage advice you've ever received?
Well, I'll tell you a funny one. When we first got married, the couple that was kind of, advising us, they said, why don't you not have a television for the first year? And I thought, whoa, we were really, interested in TV then. And, we had our favorite shows and everything. But they said, well, if you would take time in the evening just to talk to each other, be together, play a game, just do some fun things together, go for a walk, whatever, it'll be good for your relationship. So just commit to it for 1 year. So we said, okay, so we were kind of in withdrawal. And every once in a while we'd go over to his parents' house or a friend's house and watch one of our favorite shows. But we did that for the first year. And I think that was good. It was a good foundation for us of focusing on each other, in the evenings after we were done with school or work or whatever. So we did that. That was kind of fun advice.
That's good.
Yeah. And then another one I think that has always stuck with me, I think I got this from Dr. Dobson, was don't expect your husband to meet every need in your life. Because if you go into marriage with that expectation, you're going to be disappointed and it's
Mm,
going to hinder your relationship. The Lord is the one who is supposed to meet the deepest needs in your heart, and other women are there to meet some of those other needs. And your husband has particular needs that he will meet. But if you're looking to only have him meet everything for you, then you're going to make each other miserable because that's not going to work very well, right? So I think that was really good advice, and to focus on finding some of those other women that you can talk to. And because like they say, women have so many more words than men, and they don't want
mhm.
to listen to every single thing that you've ever thought forever. So it's good to have those other relationships. And let's see if I wrote down anything else here. I think that was about it. We already talked about the idea of, always, if you have anything that's bothering you about your relationship with your husband, you want to not be talking to it with people, pour it out to the Lord first. And then if you need to seek
Mhm.
out advice, you go to one, godly person who is not going to just take your side, but will honestly tell you, what
Yes.
what you can do on your part to make the situation better. And that can help you, go through a tough time.
Yes. We there's a lady in our church. She's actually the bookkeeper, and she is like the epitome of how to be a good wife to your husband.
Ah,
Sometimes I just roll my eyes, but I know she's right. Like I know she's right, but she's just I love to watch her and listen to her talk about her marriage, and I'm just like she's goals for sure. Like she's
yeah,
it's good to have just to be able to be around her, and it's good to be around people with strong marriages and see how they interact with each other. And everybody's so different because everybody's personalities are different.
right.
But the way when God is in the center of your marriage, it he makes it all work. And it's good to see to be around couples that are making it work and because they've
Yeah,
got God there.
right. When I was, Scott and I were dating that one summer when I went away to Europe on a short-term mission and he stayed back in Oregon, I was working with a European mission in Belgium, and we were like mainly cleaning teams for this Christian conference center. And there was a group of people there who were the translators for the NIV Bible. These were like really top theologians from all around the country. They came away for the summer so they could work on translating Genesis and the book of Psalms. And some of them had their wives there with them. And when we had our meal time, we were able to eat dinner and lunch with them. And I watched this one older couple, the way she interacted with her husband. Oh, she was always just so thoughtful of him and so kind, and just being sure he had everything they needed. And I was just so impressed with just their relationship. It really made a big impact on me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's
That's
very,
neat. You got to be around those all of those people though. Hmm.
yeah, it was wonderful. And we had Bible study with them and everything. And they took us on some day trips and even a couple overnight trips into around in Europe, Germany and stuff.
That's
It was really
exciting.
fun. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was a great experience.
Well, along with just regular marriage stuff, you guys are in the ministry. So, how has being in the ministry impacted your marriage?
Well, let's see. I think it's given us a great focus because we both love the Lord, and part of our goal is to serve the Lord. And so we've always partnered together. It's always been something
Mhm.
that has really drawn us together to be able to serve the Lord together. So I've loved being a pastor's wife. We've been in 5 different churches, and all of them except for the last one we were planting. So they were smaller churches, and we were just, getting to know people and bringing them to the Lord and seeing people saved and grow and discipled. So that's been really a bonding thing for us. It's always been pretty much positive. There's very little negative. We've been really blessed in the church situations we've been in, where we've been appreciated, and, it's been good. So there's been a few times where there was conflicts or something in the church that, I don't like conflict. But so that's been tough a little bit, but I don't think it hasn't hurt our marriages. It's only made us stronger and, better people together. So I'm really thankful that the Lord took us on this path, and we've been able to serve him in these different churches. And so it's been good.
Yeah, like you, we've been in ministry since day one, and so I sometimes think, what do people who aren't in the ministry like? What do they talk about, and what do they do? Because we do so much ministry together. Like we're we're always like Keith doesn't really have ministry stuff he does that I'm not a part. I mean, obviously, I'm not sitting up there on Sundays preaching next to him or anything like that. But I do his. I just finished his sermon notes right before we got on this recording, and I was finishing up his sermon notes and sending those to the office so they could print them, and like everything, we do everything together, so we talk about it all the time. And I think it's definitely been way more good for our
Mhm.
marriage than negative. There's been very little negative things. It's you're kind of I mean, I think for me, we're kind of forced, uh, like we're married and we're in the ministry, and so people are looking at us, and therefore that kind of there's a little bit of accountability there.
Yeah.
Not I'm not saying judgment or anything. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's that too, but like you're not going to be casual about stuff as much. I'm not going to be as casual because I know that it really matters. Like our marriage matters in the ministry. If there's a there's an issue in our home and there's division, it is going to impact the church.
Right. That's right.
So I'm very conscious of that. And I'm grateful to the Lord to put us in this together. And I can't imagine any other life.
Yeah, I agree. That's good the way I feel too. Yeah.
But woo, church planning, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's challenging, but it's a sweet time too, because I mean, you're in a smaller church where you
Mhm.
pretty much know everybody, and you know, you know more of their personal stories and what's going on in their lives, and you can see God working. Whereas in a bigger church, you don't always, I mean, I don't even know everybody's name yet, and I've been there like a year and a half because there's so many people. So it's a little bit different kind
That's
of,
true.
yeah. So
Were you guys sent to plant, or would like did somebody send you to plant a church, your churches,
um,
or did you just feel, okay, Lord, you're sending us here and we're going to plant a church?
one of the ones we were sent, but the others we just felt, we joined the two of them we joined when they were just like baby, just started, and
Mhm.
we were brought on to be like the teaching. He's brought on to be the teaching pastor. So, when we were sent, and the others we felt this is where we're going. So
That's neat.
yeah,
That's
it's
that's
good.
totally different than what I've experienced. I can't. It sounds scary to me a little bit, but
Yeah, it is. Well, it is in a sense, but then it's also exciting just to see God work and provide, and, use you in that kind of situation. So
yes.
it is challenging. And I'm glad at our age now we're in more of a settled, we have a building. Like for at before COVID, we were meeting in a school with a church that we had been sent out to plant. And it was going pretty well. We had like 125 people. And then COVID hit, and because we were in a school, they closed the school. We had nowhere to meet. And so
Oh wow.
we met online for a little while, just for a few months, maybe just like 2 months or so. And then someone in our church had a partially open barn. And they said, well, you can meet in the barn. And it was the summer. So we thought, okay. So we started having services in this barn. And then, COVID kept going on. And so, they did more construction around this barn. And in the winter, we brought in heaters. We had a porch
Wow.
on, but it was challenging. And about half the people came, to the barn. But then, we were there for over 2 years, and that was quite a challenge. And then the Lord, a church in our area where we are now, their pastor suddenly decided to retire and leave, and they needed a new pastor. And Scott had just been on a pulpit committee there, not pulpit committee, what do you call that when you confirm somebody to be a pastor? Anyway, he had been there and talked to people and met people there. And so they thought, oh, this Scott Turansky, they don't have a building. And we have, he's a good pastor, but they don't have a building. We don't have a pastor, we have a building. So they called him, and then they sort of thought, well, we better do the regular search. And did a whole search. And then they ended up calling him anyway in the end. But so it took several.
Wow.
So we brought, most of our people came with us from the barn over to merge with this other church. So that's where we are now.
That is a cool story.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. Because
Oh
we had no
gosh.
idea what we were going to do. Because we couldn't stay in this barn forever, but they wouldn't let us back in the school because COVID was still, going on
Mhm.
forever. So anyway, it came at the good time for us that we could move into a
That
building.
is so cool. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your books. Can we talk about your books? Because
Yeah.
I love to read. And so, anyway, I just want to talk about the books because I have loved every novel that I've read of yours. They
Oh,
are so good. I love your historic drama, all that. I love it. I love it so much. But first of all, and we probably talked about this before, but when did you become a writer? Like, okay, or were you somebody who was always writing as a kid?
I did write my first story when I was like 12 years old, but then all my family are all artists. So I kind of got into art, and I did
Mm.
a little journalism in school, but I mainly majored in art, and then got married and had children and homeschooled them. And when our youngest were 8 and my oldest was 15, we took our whole family to Kenya, East Africa for a year, to work at a mission station where somebody had gone home on sabbatical and they needed someone to fill in at the Bible college. So my husband took that year off from pastoring in the US and went to work there in Kenya for the year.
Wow.
So we had a great experience. It was wonderful, life changing for all of us. And then when we came back, I missed Africa so much. I thought, oh, I'm going to just write a story there because I'd always loved to read and had a great imagination. And while I was in Kenya, we didn't have a lot of power all the time. So I was kind of like, time is to think and, have an imagination. So I kind of wrote a story. I mean, I'd written articles and, papers in college, that kind of thing, but I didn't know fiction technique. So I just poured out this story that kind of was set in Kenya and, to relive our experiences and make it more dramatic and everything. So that's kind of the first thing I wrote, but I didn't know anything about writing fiction. So I took it to a writer's conference, and they match you up with an editor who reads your first few pages and they give you a critique. Well, I got an editor who was like one of the top editors, and she took a red pen and she just drew a red pen down the side and said, I can't even critique this. You need to go learn how to write fiction. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, so I kind of was feeling discouraged, but then, a few days later, the Lord kind of spoke to my heart, and he gave me some other ways. Then I wrote to another author that I really liked, and she encouraged me to join a national Christian writers organization that was just getting started. And so I did that and went to my library and joined a writers group there. And so I just started learning how to write. So that was like in about 2000. So my first book was published in 2005. And then this is my 22nd book that just came out in September. There it
I
is.
love the
Like
cover. It's so pretty.
of Longdale Manor. Yes, it's very pretty. I really like it too. So it's a dual time English story that has, a historical plot woven together with a contemporary story. And the thing that pulls the two stories together is this 100-year-old journal that the contemporary heroine finds, and she reads and she learns kind of these lessons from this woman in the past who had some really tragic things happen in her family, and she has to struggle with forgiveness and just thinking about how her faith could be restored after she was disappointed and discouraged with her father. So that's kind of what the story's about.
It's so good. And you do such a beautiful teaching on forgiveness and it doesn't come out preachy.
Oh, good.
at all. Like as you're reading it, it's just beautiful how you wove forgiveness into this story. I wanted to hold that journal in my hands so bad as I was
Oh,
reading. Like I just wanted to touch it.
yeah,
So
that was fun. I really enjoyed, that's one of my, this is my favorite story, one of my favorites that I've written. I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of inspired by, one day I was, well, I'm sure you've heard about the famous Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias.
mhm.
Heard of
Mm.
him, but it was discovered after he died that he had moral failure and that he had really betrayed his wife, and all that came out. And I thought to myself, oh, I felt so sorry for his family. I thought, how will his wife recover? How will his daughter and his son recover from that? What will it do to their faith? So that was kind of the springboard for the idea for the historical story, because I wanted to just um, figure out, how would God do that? What would he do to help those people to recover
Mm.
from a betrayal like that? And how would it impact all of them, that kind of thing. So that was kind of the little germ of the idea for the historical plot.
It was good. It was such a good book. I've loved every one that I've read of yours. And what made you want to write about England? Because you.
Well, when I first started writing, I was writing contemporary stories set in the United States, because that was
Mhm.
where I lived and what I knew. I set them some in Princeton or right around here, and in New Jersey, and then I wrote some that were like in Oregon Northwest, where I'm from. And then as I got going, I loved history. I had really enjoyed reading historical biographies, especially when we are doing homeschooling, and I loved history. And I thought, oh, I
Mhm.
wish I could write longer historical books, but it was really kind of a challenge to break into that part of being accepted by a publisher for that. But then Downton Abbey became very popular back in like 2011, 12 kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
went to a librarian's conference with one of my other friends who was a very well-known author. And I was just there as a guest. I wasn't there as an author. But I saw an editor there that I had met at a previous writers conference. And I thought, oh, if I'm brave, I could go talk to her. Maybe I could, network a little bit here and learn something. So I went up to her and I introduced myself. And, oh, yeah, I remember you, kind of thing. And we talked. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And she said, well, Downton Abbey is very popular now. And if we could find a Christian story
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
was set in England in that at that same era, maybe it could have like a brooding hero and a governess like Jane Eyre. She said, maybe if you could write something like that, I would love to see a book like that. And I said, oh, that's a very good idea. And then I thought, I don't know anything about England 100 years ago. But my friend that I was there with, she had just written a wonderful book that was set right in that time period, starts in England with a boy who stows away on the Titanic. And she had all these research books, and I was staying with her at the time for a little vacation. And she said, well, let's go watch Downton Abbey. So we did. And then she gave me some books, and I just started reading more about the era. And I thought, oh, I really like this. And the story just, from those little things that she said, the story just came to me. And I was able to write not only one book, but a whole series that were kind of based on that fictional family I created there. And I, used things from my past that I had read, like the heroine is kind of inspired by Amy Carmichael, the missionary in India.
Mhm.
And I thought, what would have happened if she had to come back? How would she make it, in England if something happened to her and she had to come back? So I thought, well, it was her family, and he was a doctor, and so all these ideas just kind of come into my mind. And then I created the story from that, and ended up writing about the whole family, and that's one of my favorite series too.
I mean, I think that's pretty normal for people who like to read. They love the series. They love to keep checking
Yeah,
in with these
yeah.
people. And
Yeah, I have a
so.
new series I'm working on now. Well, I have one book I'm just finishing up that's going to be a dual time, called A Token of Love, and that
Mhm.
comes out in October. And it's also has the historical and contemporary. And the thing that holds that plot together is the Foundling Hospital in London, which was the first children's charity home,
Mhm.
where mothers who were like had illegitimate children or were widowed or whatever and couldn't care for their kids, they would turn their children, their babies, over there
Mhm.
to be cared for. And the early in 17, early 1800s, the women would leave a token, some kind of identifier, with their kids in case their situation changed and they could come back and claim
Mhm.
their baby. So they have the Foundling Museum in London, and they have a display of all these different little items that the mothers left.
Oh.
It's so touching. Like, one's a little thimble, and one is like an ivory ring, and one is a coin with the hole, and a ribbon around it. So I thought, oh, that's so interesting. So I decided to make up a fictional family that had two sisters, and one sister had to give up her baby, and then she later comes back to her sister and they want to go reclaim the baby, but they tell them the baby died, but the baby didn't really die. The baby disappeared. And so it's kind of got a mystery element. And there's a contemporary story with the heroine is the temporary director of the museum. And so it's kind of bring those two things
Ooh.
all together. So that's kind of the one that's coming out in September.
Oh, okay. So not terribly far. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
no, that's the one I'm revising. And then I just proposed a new historical series. This is kind of fun. Nobody knows this yet, but it's called The Lost Treasures of Yorkshire. And in each of the three books, there's three sisters, and they inherit this old estate in Yorkshire. And they each find something old, a historical item that's kind of has a mystery to it. And so
Ooh.
each sister will find something, and then she'll follow the trail with her other sisters, of course, to find out how is this related to their family and what does it mean to them and why is it important that they have this or whatever. So they're based on actual historical items that I've seen as I did my research. So that was really fun. So I can't wait. That one's up at the publisher now. They're considering it. So we'll see if they
Okay,
actually.
well, they better let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm really excited about writing it. So that's kind of fun. So I can't wait to get going on that, hopefully in a few weeks. I'm actually going to London. So I'm going to do a little research there. In about 2 weeks, we're going just for a week. We just happened to have a break and some miles. My husband got some miles from some ministry trip,
Oh,
a trip.
yay.
So we have some miles to use up. So we're going to
So
go
both
and
of you are going?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's so nice.
yeah,
Okay, yay, I'm excited.
yeah,
I'm actually going to go back and read um The Governess of Highland Hall. Is that the one you're talking about?
yeah.
That's the first book I read of yours. I'm going to go back and read those again. And then I loved which I right now because we're on camera, can't remember the name at all, but The Ocean, no
Oh, no ocean too wide.
yes. And the two books, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So
that one's probably my best-selling book. It's The No Ocean Too Wide,
that
and
made
it
me cry.
has a sequel called No Journey Too Far. So
I've read
that,
it too.
yeah,
They're
yeah, it's
so good.
sad, but it offers hope still. But it is hard. But it's
Yes.
from true history. So I love to
Like,
find things that are actually happened in history, and then create the fictional story around that, so that you're learning something interesting in history, and you're seeing how God is working through the situation. So that's kind of a fun thing I like to find.
how's being a writer impacted ministry?
They're really kind of separate. They don't really seem to. I mean, in this church that we're in now, we actually have a library that I took over, and I've spoken a
Oh,
couple of times to women's events where I was able to share my books and stuff. So people know a little more in this church about it, but a lot of
well,
times,
do they not realize they have a celebrity in their midst? I mean, come on.
not just the pastor's wife. That's okay. That's who I like to do.
That's probably good.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little funny. They'll, I feel a little embarrassed sometimes, but it's, I shouldn't be, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference to people. But they do enjoy my books, so that's good. I'm glad for that. I put them in the library and they check them out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. So you told us about your new novel coming out. You told us about the series. Thanks for giving us a little heads up. I'm excited. This has just been so good. I love chatting with you. You just have such a sweet spirit. And I was so excited that you wanted to come back on the podcast and chat. And this has been really good, really practical, really inspiring. It's good to hear from ministry wives who've been doing this for the long haul and you've still got all your hair and you're fairly sane and all of
Yeah.
that. No, it's good. And you still have, you still speak about the ministries. So you're honored to still be a part of ministry. It's just good to hear. And I know that the ladies listening have really loved chatting with you. And they're probably like, would you stop talking? Because we want to go get the books right now. Because I know I do. I'm like, I just want to go get in the bed now and read the rest of the day.
That would be fun.
But before we go, well, first of all, let us know how we can connect with you online.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I have a website, which is just my name, carrieturansky.com. And when you're there, you can just look around, enjoy photos of my research trips. You can find a list of all my books there and easy links to order those if you'd like. They're available. Most of them, the newer English ones, are all available in audiobook if you like that, ebook or paperback. So those are all there. And there's a blog that has some of the latest things happening. I have also links to some recipes that I like to recommend, some from my books. And then I have a sign up there for my author email newsletter, which goes out usually once a month to kind of keep you in the loop of what's happening. I often have a giveaway or something, special besides just book news there, try to encourage you and give you more book reviews of other authors' books. And when you do sign up for the author newsletter, I have a free short story, which is called Keeper of Her Heart, which falls between No Ocean Too Wide and No Journey Too Far. It tells you how Grace and Garth met. So that's kind of a fun little short story that you can get there when you sign up.
How
And
did I miss this? Okay, I'm totally doing that as soon as I'm
so
done
if you,
talking to
yeah,
you.
you can go back there and get it. And if you have any trouble getting the download for that, just, you can leave me a message. There's a comment. I mean, there's a page there where you can leave me a message. So if you don't get it, let me know and I'll give you the link.
Okay.
But that's the best way. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and not too much on any of the other social medias, but those are the two that I'm regularly on. So you can pop on there and see what's happening or connect with me that way.
Okay, I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. I'm also going to add the link to that Facebook group. I think we were talking about before we hit record. That is the avid Christian fiction readers. I can't think of what it's called. I'm in it all the time.
Avid readers of Christian fiction.
Okay, it is so good, and your to be read pile will just grow and grow and grow when you're in that group because you just want to read all the things. So I'll add that in there for people who love to read like I do.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's a
going to
good
add
one.
that in there. All right. Well, would you just pray for us before we go?
Sure, I'd love to. Father, thank you so much for Jackie and for her ministry to pastors' wives. Lord, we just love pastors' wives and we want to encourage them. And we just ask that you'd bless all the women that are listening today. And we know, Lord, some maybe are in marriages where they are struggling and having issues. So we pray, Lord, that you would give them just insight and courage. We pray you give them the support that they need, that they might have someone they can reach out to who would help guide them and give them the next step that they can take to improve their marriage and to help them through whatever they're facing. Thank you, Lord, that you've given us great wisdom in your word and you give us great encouragement, Lord, as we talk together and lift each other up. So we thank you. I pray for Jackie that you just continue to strengthen her and her family in her ministry, Lord, that you would bless them and their church. And we just thank you, Lord, for this time that we've had together today. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Carrie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast again. And I'm sure I would love to have you again.
Oh, you're sweet, Jackie. Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.